People may walk away. Life may not turn out the way you thought. It's easy to get bitter, hold a grudge, lose your passion. Or do like Naomi, kiss the bitterness goodbye. Kiss the person that left you goodbye. Kiss the dream that didn't work out goodbye. God wouldn't have allowed it to happen if He didn't have something better up in front of you. But sometimes God will close the door. He'll move people out of your life. There are people and opportunities that were ordained for your past that are not ordained for your future. They were right for a season, but that season can come to an end. The key is how we handle the closed doors, how you handle the disappointments, how you handle the people that treated you wrong. Sometimes, instead of kissing them goodbye, we smack them goodbye. Good riddance. I didn't like you in the first place. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Naomi could have turned away angry. Thought, I'm not going to kiss you, Orpah. Some friend you are. That would have kept her from the new things God had in store. She moved back to Bethlehem with her daughter-in-law, Ruth. Ruth married Boaz, a wealthy man that owned all the land. They had a baby. Naomi took care of their son like he was her own. After all she had been through, all the broken dreams, all the loss, while holding the little baby, Naomi said in effect, I never dreamed I could be this happy, this fulfilled. Her latter days were better than her former days. God knows how to give you beauty for ashes. He knows how to turn mourning into dancing. But it would have never happened if she had not kissed Orpah goodbye. Are you at peace with your past? Or are you bitter over the loss? Upset because your plans didn't work out? Holding a grudge because that person walked away? It's time to kiss some things goodbye. Don't bring bitterness into a new year. Don't bring self-pity, a chip on your shoulder. That was in your past. It doesn't belong in the future. You cannot embrace the new things God has in store as long as you're holding on to the old. My father went to be with the Lord back in 1999, some 20 years ago. I lost one of my best friends. I still miss him, but I realized the loss of my father is in my past. It's not in my future. If I would have brought all the hurt, the questions, the self-pity, I wouldn't be where I am. You won't have the strength to move forward if you're weeping over what's behind. It takes a lot of energy to think about the past, relive the hurts, wonder why it didn't work out. That person you lost, if they were supposed to be here, they would still be here. If somebody left you, I say it respectfully, you don't need them. If it didn't work out the way you had planned, it wasn't supposed to. God's ways are not our ways. Will you trust Him when it doesn't make sense? Start kissing things goodbye. You spend enough energy on the past, that doesn't take you anywhere. Kiss that disappointment goodbye. That door didn't close by accident. God is directing your steps. It was either not the right time or because He has something better. A friend of mine owned a very successful business. For years, he was a leader in his field, saw all kinds of growth and increase. He had big dreams to leave his company to his children, to continue the legacy. After 25 years, things started to slow down. The competition around him increased, so he started working harder, going in earlier. I would call him, and he was meeting with staff at 6 in the morning. He was determined to make it work. He did everything he possibly could. But God is called the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. We get excited about the beginning, talk a lot about God doing a new thing, but we don't hear a lot about the Omega, the end. But just as God opens doors, sometimes God will close a door. He'll bring things to an end. And this can be hard for us because it feels like a setback. After all the hard work, my friend's company didn't make it. He was so discouraged. For several months, he would hardly talk on the phone. He told me how he felt like a failure. He had all these plans, but it didn't work out the way he thought. I told him what I'm telling you. The best thing you can do is just kiss it goodbye. Don't bring a failure from yesterday into today. If one dream dies, get back up and dream another dream. He got his passion back and went out and started a consulting business. All kinds of doors begin to open. Today, he has more clients, more influence, more opportunities than he's ever had. His new company is many times more successful than his old. When life doesn't turn out the way you thought, remind yourself God is still in control. Instead of being sour, losing your joy, kiss the disappointment goodbye. Quit reliving mistakes you've made, things that you wish you would have done different, wondering why it didn't work out. Like my friend, you may have done your best, given it your all, but it didn't succeed. Accept it as God's plan and move on. Our attitude should be, God, I trust you, not just with my successes, I trust you with my failures. I trust you with the betrayals. I trust you with the things that don't make sense. When you kiss the past goodbye, it releases you into your future. You have to be at peace with what's behind you. It's not enough to just move forward, angry, bitter, mad at God. That's why Naomi kissed Orpah. It was symbolizing, this is painful, I don't like it, I feel betrayed, but I'm at peace. It takes maturity to kiss things that don't feel good.
Here we go. Who of you by worrying can add a single hour to anyone's life? Who of you by worrying can add a single hour to anyone's life? Who of you by worrying has probably taken a year off your life or somebody else's life? Who of you by worrying is driving people in your life out of your minds, right? And who of you by worrying has upgraded your wardrobe or reduced your grocery bill? Who of you by worrying has added value to anything that you value? Who of you by worrying has added value to what you value most? To which we would say nothing and nobody. And so nothing and everybody. Nothing and a lot of people. I mean, I realize, Andy, that worrying, it's human. I go there. It happens to me. I feel like it overtakes me. It controls me. But yeah, I get that. Worrying doesn't help. How do you obey the command not to worry? How do you do this if you're going to tell Jesus, if you're going to tell us not to do it? You got to help us out. So Jesus offers an alternative to worry. Here's what he says to this crowd of people that he didn't know personally, and we're getting to know him. He said this, therefore, I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat, or drink, about your body, what you will wear. And Jesus immediately goes to the issue of worry, which is the future tense. And he picks out what you're going to eat and what you're going to drink or what you're going to wear, because these were the primary concerns of the people in his day, in his generation. But you can fill in the blank with whatever you worry about. Do not worry about where you're going to go to school, if you're going to get in, if you're going to keep your job, get a job, if you're going to get a raise, if you're going to get married, if you're going to stay married, if you're going to get to be remarried, if you're going to have children. Whatever it is you worry about, he says, do not worry about these things, because all of them, as he says, are in the future. And then he says something that's so big and so profound. When at first you read this, you may say, well, that's just not true. But I'm telling you, this goes beyond the surface. This is so powerful. He asks a question. Is not life, your whole life, not just your physical life, big picture, is not life more than food and the body more than clothes? Here's what he's asking. Isn't it true there is more to you than the things that you worry about? Isn't it interesting that when we worry, we bring something front and center and it becomes as big as our whole world? And Jesus says, hang on. Isn't it true that your life is bigger than, that your life is more significant than, that the world and what you're involved in is more significant? Isn't it true that your life is bigger than the thing you're focused on that has become as big as your whole world? Isn't it true that life is more than the things that you worry about? That's a big thought. Because worry is now. Worry is later, and then we bring later into now, and suddenly it becomes big. He says, isn't your life bigger than whatever it is that you worry about? Then he says something completely irrelevant. Look at the birds of the air. And we're like, who has time for that? I have a test tomorrow, okay? Look at the birds of the air. Who has time for that? I mean, I have to get ready for, a presentation tomorrow. Birds of the air. I got to go look for a job. Now, remember, though, Jesus is talking to a group of people outside. They're on a hill, and he's up there teaching, and I'm sure there were birds flying around. He says, consider the birds of the air. And, the audience looks up and thinks what we think sometimes about birds. Wow, wouldn't it be great to be a bird? Until you get close to birds, okay? But when they're up there in the air and you're thinking, how fun to just be able to leave this world, leave my circumstances, leave this environment. Consider the birds of the air. So they're all looking at the birds of the air, and then he goes on. He says, they do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? Now, this is a loaded couple of sentences. First of all, Jesus points to the fact that he's not teaching, hey, just don't worry about tomorrow. You don't need to study for that test. You don't need to apply for a job. You don't need to go to the doctor. You don't need to just live an irresponsible life and God will take care of you. He's not teaching that. He says, look, think about it. Your heavenly Father has given you the ability to sow and to reap. Your heavenly Father has given you the ability to anticipate the future. Of course, the problem with anticipating the future is where worry comes from. But along with the ability to anticipate the future, we have the ability to prepare for the future. So he says, look, if your heavenly Father, who has given you this extraordinary opportunity and gift to be able to anticipate, to prepare for, to do things today in order to be prepared for tomorrow, if your heavenly Father has given you that, obviously you are of great concern to him, because in comparison to that, and you look at your heavenly Father feeds the birds, and you are much more valuable than them because, implication, you have been made in the image of God. So if God, he says, and this is a little bit of a stretch for some of us, if God cares so much about nature, that God has built into nature the ability for nature to take care of itself, how much more concern does God have for those of us who have been made in his image? So much concern that he has given us the gift of anticipation. He has given us the gift of being able to project in the future and to prepare for the future. Then he says this. He says, can any of you, by worrying, he asked our question, can any of you by worrying add a single hour to your life or to anyone else's life? No. And why do you worry? He continues. And why do you worry about clothes? See how the flowers of the field grow? They do not labor or spin. In other words, they don't anticipate. They don't do anything. The flowers of the field, there is no consciousness there. And yet he says, look at how nature takes care of itself. If God is so smart, if God is so crafty, if God is so involved in creating nature the way that we see nature, and of course back then they had no idea what life was like. We're able to look into, to the details of what life is about, the structures of life. He says, if God is able to do that, and able to do that for the grass of the field, the flowers of the field, the birds of the air, and you're made in his image, can you not believe that God is concerned about you?